Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most punishing, awe-inspiring, and frankly, mind-boggling environments on the entire planet. We're looking at how the brutal, almost impossible scale of Siberia forces every living creature, and honestly, even the Earth itself, to either adapt or perish. You know, we often tend to think of Siberia as just this blank white expanse on a map, but as we're about to see, nothing could be further from the truth. Let's get right into it. Just look at the sheer shock value of that number, negative 96 degrees Fahrenheit. No way, right? But in villages like Oymyakon, this isn't just some crazy record for the history books. It's their extreme everyday reality. At minus 96, exposed skin can literally freeze in under a minute. Your breath turns into ice crystals in the air, engine fuel thickens into sludge, and metal actually becomes brittle. Just existing out there is a constant, exhausting battle against the elements, where a single tiny mistake can be fatal. And this kind of freezing temperature blankets a staggeringly vast, unforgiving frontier that spans over 5 million square miles. To put that into perspective, we're talking about a wilderness larger than the United States and Europe combined, but with only about 10 people per square mile. It is so unbelievably remote that modern vehicles frequently just freeze up and fail entirely. Out in an environment where the nearest help could literally be days away, sled dogs like Siberian Huskies aren't just cute companions. Thanks to their dense double coats and insane endurance, they are absolutely essential lifelines. Okay, let's jump into our first major topic, the energy economy, predators versus prey. Out here in the wild, there is absolutely zero room for waste. It's basically a massive biological bank account, and every single step an animal takes in the snow is a calculated withdrawal from a very limited energy reserve. Massive size and speed, they just aren't enough on their own. Take a 1,500-pound moose, for example. It has to consume 44 pounds of completely frozen vegetation every single day just to maintain its body heat. The Arctic hare can sprint up to 35 miles per hour to escape danger, but because it can't dig burrows into the frozen ground, it has to rest completely exposed. Meanwhile, the incredibly adaptable Arctic fox survives by cleverly trailing behind larger apex predators to scavenge what's left over. In deep snow, every movement burns precious energy and leaves clear tracks, which creates severe vulnerabilities that predators are all too eager to exploit.
Now, to survive, those predators have to manage their energy strictly too. It's fascinating how different their strategies are. You've got stamina-driven wolf packs that don't just attack right away. Instead, they slowly wear their prey down over miles of deep snow until they're totally exhausted. Then you have the solitary lynx, which uses its huge fur-covered paws almost like snowshoes for a perfectly silent ambush. High above, the golden eagle is diving at a staggering 120 miles per hour, and sitting right at the absolute top of the food chain is the Siberian tiger, relying on sheer stealth and dominance to control a massive 400-square-mile territory completely uncontested.
But as we push way up north toward the Arctic coast, this whole ecosystem shifts to rely entirely on ice. The walrus navigates freezing waters using a massive 6-inch layer of blubber for insulation and super-sensitive whiskers to find food. The polar bear, on the other hand, depends completely on solid sea ice to ambush seals at their breathing holes. But here's the really terrifying reality. We're seeing how rapidly these apex predators are being forced to adapt. Because the sea ice is declining, polar bears are now being forced to swim over 60 miles in open water just to find a meal, completely upending hunting strategies that have been passed down for generations.
Moving right along to Section 2, Fire Under the Ice, Geological Violence.
Just when you're probably picturing this endlessly static, frozen world, let me throw a complete curveball at you. Welcome to the Chara Desert, one of the strangest environmental paradoxes on the planet. Here, you have these towering golden sand dunes formed from ancient glacial deposits sitting entirely surrounded by a freezing, dense Siberian forest. It honestly looks like a mirage, but it's totally real. It's this bizarre pocket of shifting sand that actually bakes in the summer sun, only to freeze completely solid under heavy snow during the winter.
And speaking of extreme heat, 300 volcanoes. Out of the more than 300 volcanoes scattered across the Kamchatka Peninsula, nearly 30 of them are actively erupting right now as we speak. This extremely isolated eastern edge of Siberia, which doesn't even have a direct road connection to the rest of Russia, by the way, is actually one of the most geologically violent places on Earth.
So the crucial point here is that beneath the apparent icy stillness, Siberia is violently alive. It sits right on the Pacific Ring of Fire. You have Khrushchevskaya, towering over 15,000 feet, spewing dark ash miles into the sky and coating the snow below. Mutnovsky is bubbling with boiling mud and acidic sulfur gas. And in the Valley of Geysers, you literally have columns of boiling water shooting up into the freezing sub-zero air. These totally opposing forces of extreme heat and absolute cold somehow manage to exist side by side in this eternal, crazy standoff.
Which brings us to our third section, human life on shifting ground.
If you're going to try to engineer permanent human cities out here, you are facing the ultimate challenge, building on top of a landscape that is constantly trying to collapse out from under you. And to understand that, we have to talk about the ground they literally walk on, the permafrost. This is soil, ice, and organic material that has been locked in a deep freeze for tens of thousands of years, going hundreds of feet deep. It acts as the region's foundation, but it is incredibly fragile. Even the slightest thawing of this permafrost can collapse buildings, buckle roads, and turn a seemingly solid foundation into a deadly hazard overnight.
Just look at the unbelievable lengths human ingenuity has to go to in places like the city of Yakutsk. To survive, they actually mount entire buildings on elevated concrete pillars just so the heat radiating from the floors doesn't melt the frozen ground below them. They have to run vital insulated plumbing and heating pipes completely above ground because burying them would mean they'd freeze solid and burst. And during the deepest parts of winter, people literally just leave their cars running all day long. Because if the engine gets completely cold, there's a good chance it might never start again. Every single aspect of life is adapted to one terrifying constraint. The ground absolutely cannot be allowed to thaw.
Because building permanent infrastructure on permafrost is so incredibly treacherous, just look at the infamous Kolyma Highway, chillingly known as the Bone Road, locals actually leverage nature's severe seasonal transformations to their advantage. During the winter, the massive Lena River completely freezes over and becomes a crucial 2,700-mile highway of solid ice. This allows massive heavy-duty trucks to transport vital goods to places where traditional roads simply cannot be built or maintained.
And finally, let's dive into our last section, deep time and frozen mysteries.
You see, the Siberian ice serves as an ancient locked vault for phenomena that science still can't fully explain. The permafrost isn't just frozen dirt, it's practically a perfect natural preservation system. It's kept 30,000-year-old mammoths completely intact. We're talking fur, skin, and even their stomach contents perfectly preserved. But maybe a bit more startlingly, scientists have discovered what they're calling zombie viruses. These are ancient microorganisms that have been locked in the ice for tens of thousands of years, but when they're carefully brought into a modern lab, they can actually be successfully reactivated. Wild, right?
And beyond just Ice Age relics, this whole region holds a timeline of pure, unresolved chaos. Siberia has hosted events that totally defy easy explanation. Back in 1908, the Tunguska event flattened 80 million trees over 800 square miles, but left absolutely zero impact crater. It was likely a massive meteor airburst, but honestly, the mystery still lingers today. Then you have the bizarre cone-shaped Potomsky crater discovered deep in the woods in 1949, and its origins are still hotly debated. Throw in a monumental magnitude 9.0 earthquake in Kamchatka in 1952, and it just proves that Siberia operates entirely by its own chaotic rules. Nestled right in the middle of these ancient mountains and epic feats of human expansion, like the legendary Trans-Siberian Railway, sits Lake Baikal. Now, this isn't just a lake, it is essentially an isolated biological universe. It's over 25 million years old, plunges down 5,300 feet, and incredibly, holds nearly 20% of the entire world's unfrozen freshwater. Every single winter, it gets locked under violently cracking ice, and yet it supports thousands of unique species, including the Nerpa, which is the only freshwater seal species anywhere on Earth.
So the absolute key takeaway we want to leave you with today is this. Siberia is definitely not some dead, frozen wasteland, not even close. It is a hyper-dynamic, breathing entity. It's trapped in this eternal, brutal cycle of freezing and thawing, where animal life, crazy geology, and human engineering are all locked in a constant, fascinating state of adaptation and survival.
To wrap up this explainer, we want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought about our changing planet. The temperatures are shifting, and that foundational permafrost is beginning to thaw. So, as this great, ancient Siberian vault slowly unlocks its deep history, from lost prehistoric ecosystems to dormant biological forces, are we truly prepared for what survives inside? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating world with us today, and as always, keep questioning what lies beneath the surface.